Okay, so I'll call the meeting to order. It's 7:31. Let's see, we've got Coins Christmas Tree, there's Mitchell, McCourt. I don't see Debbie. Am I correct in that?
Yeah. Oh, there she is.
There she is. Hi, Debbie.
Hey, Martha, can you hear me?
I hear.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Martha, Jim's here from Psychage. So when we
Okay.
did the board meeting, if you could move him up so he doesn't have to sit till 8:30 or whatever to do the audit presentation.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Hi, Jim.
Give me just 1 second. Sorry. Okay, so like I said, calling the meeting to order. It's 7:32 now. We'll go into citizen comments first. Do we know, Natalie, if anyone is waiting to speak?
No, I didn't get any emails.
Okay. Let me look at the participant list real quick. What? I'm not talking. Okay, just be quiet, please. Okay, so if anybody listening is planning to speak for citizen comment, now is the time, and you can just chime in. Okay, I think we're good to move on. So Brian, do you want me to move up Jim to immediately, or at what point do you want me to do that?
I would say after minutes and bills and petty cash. Then
Okay, so before monthly reports.
I'll make a motion of minutes of November 12th.
I second Mitchell seconds McCourt's motion.
Thank you.
Any questions or issues from anyone with those minutes?
Roll call vote.
Yes, please, Julie.
Debbie Braun,
Yes. I mean, no.
Oh.
I don't have issues with the minutes.
okay, so that's a yes.
Okay. Yeah,
Uh,
sorry.
Yep, Dan Coyne,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
McCourt,
Yes.
Matthew Mitchell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on then to approval of the bills.
Okay, I'll go over the unusuals real quick. Auto Wares was a starter for the F-250. That's the truck with the plow on it. As we move down the bills, Illinois Public Risk Fund Illinois Public Risk Fund, our annual workers' comp bill, $10,536. John Dalton was a partner camp times two classes in the fall. And as we go further down, Pauline Kawalasta is a refund for a class. And Russo Power Equipment, we bought a snow blower and a few rakes. The snow blower comes from money from a rebate. It's in my board report. We'll get to that in a little bit, but most of it's paid for by a rebate from the insurance company, Parks, and then they give you a list of what you can purchase. And we purchased the 18-inch wide snow blower. That's it.
McCourt, I'll make a motion to approve the bills of $30,285.90.
Ron, I'll second it.
Okay, roll call vote. Debbie Braun,
Yes.
Coyne,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
McCourt,
Yes.
and Mitchell.
Yes.
moving on to petty cash, Brian?
Okay, so some of the unusuals, Amex Plumbing, RPZ valve testing per city code. That's what we attach to the hydrant so we can fill our tank with water roses. And now in the winter, it's gonna be the ice rink. Drip Works, parts for the garden to table, water line. Evanston Organics was mulch for the rose garden. GoDaddy, email renewals. Lowe's, we bought a green snow fence. If you drive by the Cayman East Ice Rink, you'll see most of that fence around the rink. MailChimp, emails over 2,000. YWCA, two workshops coming up, I believe, on Monday. Natalie and Matt Mitchell, and Zoom times 3, $84.97. That's it.
Thanks, Brian. Anybody
Hold
have
on.
any issues, questions? Is that,
Motion.
Brian, is that RPZ valve something we have to do with water fountains too? Or is that, I remember us talking about that numerous times. I think we would have to install that, but we have chosen not to put in additional fountains or something like that. Will you remind me? What you're talking about, it only applies to the hydrant, not the water fountains?
Correct.
Okay,
It's a valve about 2 feet long. Unhook the hydrant, screw it on, and so it prevents backflow into the city's water flow. So it
and
can't
that
be
was just testing of it, is what you said the charge was?
tested annually, so it functions correctly.
Okay. Okay, did we have a motion in a second on petty cash?
Court, I'll make a motion to approve the petty cash for $1,211.31.
Mitchell,
Ron,
second
I'll-
motion.
Julie, I think Matt got to it first, and if you want a roll call, please.
Debbie Braun,
Yes.
Coin,
Yes.
Gaines. Right, Martha?
Yes.
McCourt
Yes.
and Mitchell.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll make a motion now to move hearing from the auditor up the agenda.
I'll second. McCourt.
Okay, and Julie, if you don't mind roll calling that vote as well.
Lost her.
Julie's not there.
Sorry about that. Debbie Braun,
Yes.
Coin,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
McCourt,
Yes.
and Mitchell.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll turn it over to you then, Jim.
All right, great. Thanks, Martha. Thanks everyone for your time tonight. I appreciate it. Want to thank too Brian and Jerry for all of their help too throughout the entire audit process. Things went very well this year. I didn't have any delays or anything, so we're able to get the reports out. And I just want to thank them for that. What I'd like to do, I think Jerry said you may have electronic and hard copies of the reports. So what I'd like to do is kind of go through both reports. I'll start with the annual financial report, and then look also at the auditor's communication to the board as well after that. So I'm going to start with the annual financial report. That's the bigger report. I'm going to kind of walk you through the table of contents just to kind of give you an idea of what's in the report. It's not a huge report, but it is 37 pages. So just kind of want to give you an idea of what's in the report. Then after that, I'll point out a few highlights, and then we'll go on to the board communication report. So in the table of contents for the annual financial report, or the AFR, I may refer to it as, the independent auditor's report is on pages 1 through 3. Following that, then is management discussion and analysis on MD&A pages 1 through 6. We'll take a look at those two reports in a minute. After that, then we start what we call the basic financial statements. So this is the financial statements that we give an opinion on. The first set of financial statements are the government-wide financial statements. So that's statement of net position or your balance sheet, and then the statement of activities, which is your income statement. Now, these statements are the consolidated financial statements for the district. So it has a long-term focus. It includes all the funds, and it has capital assets, long-term debt. So it's similar to financial statements that you'd see in the corporate world. After that, then are the fund financial statements. These are a little bit different now. The governmental funds, the balance sheet, and then the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance have a short-term focus. So there's no capital assets, there's no long-term debt. It's basically focused on current spendable resources, similar to how you budget. So there's two different focuses here. And then pages 7 and 9 is a reconciliation to kind of get you from that short-term focus to that long-term focus. It tells you what changes you have to make to get to that long-term focus. So that's on pages 6 through 9. After that, on pages 10 through 25, whole lot of exciting footnotes, at least exciting for accountants. But there are a lot of great additional information that kind of supports the basic financial statements, and they should be read in conjunction with those financial statements. Now, after that is required supplementary information, or RSI, I may refer to it as. I want to point out the RSI section and then the management discussion and analysis, we perform some limited procedures, but not enough to give an opinion on. So I just want to point that out. In the RSI, there's a couple of budget versus actual reports for your general fund and then your recreation fund, which is your major special revenue fund. And then there's some additional information on your participation in the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, or IMRF. And I'll point out those two schedules a little bit later on too. Then there's some notes to the RSI on page 30. And then the second page of the table of contents, we have the combining and individual fund financial statements and schedules. This basically shows your non-major governmental funds. So some combining statements, and then some budget versus actual statements for those funds. And then after that, the supplemental data, I'll point out we don't give an opinion on this, but it has some information on your assessed valuations, the tax levy extensions and collections, as well as your tax rates for 10 years. So that's on page 37. So that's kind of what's in the report. I'm going to point out a couple of highlights here. I won't go through the whole report, so you can rest assured that I won't be taking up the entire night's time. So the independent auditors report is on pages 1 through 3. I always point out these are the 3 pages that we prepare and are responsible for. Management's responsible for the rest of the annual financial report, and those responsibilities are explained here on page 1, both for management and the auditor. Turning to page 2, up at the very top is the paragraph that everyone's interested in. That's the opinion paragraph. And again, this year we issued an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we can provide to the district. Now, right after the independent auditor's report is the management discussion and analysis. So that's a few pages down on MD&A page 1. So this is kind of prepared by Brian and Jerry. Great overview of the district's financial position and changes in financial position. It also points out any significant changes or trends that might be occurring in the year. And it does have some 2-year comparative data that you can't find elsewhere in the report. So I always tell every board I talk to that if you only want to read one thing in the entire document, read the MD&A because it provides a good overview of the district's finances. After that, I want to turn to the governmental balance sheet. That's going to be on page 6. So these are those short-term focused financial statements that we're looking at. So I just want to take a look real quick, just at mainly the general fund, which is the first column there, and then the recreation fund is the second column. And you'll see the fund balance or your retained earnings. If this were corporate financial statements, you'll see all the way down at the bottom in the general fund, the unassigned balance is $264,000.
All right, Jim, can you tell me what page we're on again?
Sure, page 6.
Thank you.
Yeah, actual page 6, not MD&A page 6. So page 6 is the balance sheet. And then the fund balance, like I said, or your retained earnings all the way down at the bottom in the general fund is the the unassigned balance of 264,000, which is an increase from prior year's balance of 235,000. And that's about 85% of the current year expenditures, or about a 10-month reserve. So strong reserves there. And then the recreation fund had a balance assigned for recreation programs of about $378,000 this year, a slight increase from the prior year's balance of $369,000. And then the last statement I'll take a look at is on page 8. So this is basically the income statement for the governmental funds. And again, the general fund, you'll see the net change in fund balance about halfway down the page. This is your net income was about a little over $30,000 this year. Prior year, it was a net increase in fund balance of about $13,000. And then recreation fund was pretty consistent too, year over year. The increase this year was a little shy of $9,000. Last year, the increase was about $11,000. So year over year, pretty consistent performance. And then the last thing I want to point out to you, because it's a pretty hot topic for several years, but on page 28 in the RSI is 2 schedules with some information on your participation in IMRF. So want to point that out. The first schedule on page 28 is the schedule of employer contributions. So this basically shows you what the actuary at IMRF says you should contribute. You're contributing exactly what you should, so there's no excess or deficiency. And then that last percentage there, contributions as a percentage of covered payroll, that kind of shows you the debt burden. So how much are you paying for pensions in relation to your covered payroll? So you'll see that percentage has steadily declined since 2015. 2015 was a little under 10%. Now you are just about 6% for 2020. So the contribution amount and then that percentage of covered payroll is decreasing quite a bit. And you'll see why on the very next schedule on page 29. The schedule of changes in the employer's net pension liability and related ratios. What this basically shows you is your funded status at IMRF. So the very top portion is the total pension liability. That's what the actuary says you owe as a liability as of December 31st for each of these years presented. IMRF is on a calendar year. So the information that they're going to have here is going to be calendar year. So December 31st, 2019 is the latest info that we have. Right after that is the fiduciary net position. That's the assets you have set aside at IMRF to pay for those liabilities. And then the liability less the asset is your net pension liability or net pension asset. And you'll see it kind of has been fluctuating year over year for the last 6 years. But for December 31st, 2019, you actually have an asset of just shy of $99,000. And the funded ratio is about 107%. So you're in a great position with your retirement fund. And it's been consistently over 90%. So very well funded. And because of that, your contribution rate, like I said, is that 6%. So that's pretty darn low. So that's all I have for the annual financial report. The second report is the auditor's communication to the Board of Park Commissioners. And again, I'm going to go through the table of contents just so you can see what's in this report. There's some required communication that we have to have with the board every single year. So this is required by auditing standards. So pretty routine communication this year. We didn't implement any new accounting standards. Didn't have any delays, like I said, in the audit. We didn't have any disagreements with management. So that communication is pretty routine this year. Nothing too exciting in there. After that, we are required to communicate to you any audit adjusting journal entries we found. So these are entries that we found as part of the audit process. So that we have to communicate these to you. We just had 6 entries this year, and that's on pages 5 and 6. And then we also have to communicate to you any what we call past adjustments. These are entries that weren't made because they're deemed to be immaterial. But above a certain floor, we have to communicate those to the board. So we just had one entry related to other post-employment benefits. That's on page 7. And then after that is the management letter. That starts on page 8. And if you go to page 9, What this management letter says here on page 9, it is basically communicating in writing that we didn't have any material weaknesses. We also didn't have any significant deficiencies. We did note 2 deficiencies. They're on page 10. One related to interest income, and then the second one related to segregation of duties. That's a carry forward from the prior year just because of the small size of the district and not having, having a small staff. So there are some segregation of duty issues. And then the status of the prior year comments are on page 14. And you'll see the first 2 comments were implemented this year. And then that segregation of duties that I mentioned was carried forward. So that's all I have on those 2 reports. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
It sounds like
Yes,
we're-
this is Commissioner Coyne. Oh, go ahead, McCourt.
I just wanted to say, it sounds like we're in pretty good shape. Would you agree with that? Jim?
Yeah, very much so. Like I said, very few entries. We only had those 2 deficiency comments, and one of them is just simply because you do have a small staff. So you just want to be cognizant of that and kind of be very vigilant about segregating duties as much as possible, but then having compensating controls in place too, including even, maybe some greater board participation as well. But yeah, in a good job, in a good position. And we saw the reserves in the general fund were pretty strong, about 10 months worth of reserves. So yeah, I think you're in good shape financially. And Jerry is doing a good job keeping the books in good shape. So
Great. Well, thank you very much. Did a great job.
This is Commissioner Coyne. Really 2 questions. One, as I recall, last year, our audit was late, and I recall having some anxiety over it, not only as a board member, but I think also our whole board was concerned about the lateness. What would your assessment be on the timing of this year's report? Are we spot on time-wise?
yeah, I think, the reporting deadline for the state is 180 calendar days after your fiscal year end. So you have to file the annual comptroller's report by December 27th or 28th, I believe it is. So yeah, we're
Okay.
pretty much on time, and we're going to meet all the required deadlines that we have to meet.
Thank you. My second question is, where have you been? I mean, this is a fantastic, comprehensive, very well stated. It's someone like me who's not an accountant can understand exactly what you're communicating. I just want to say thank you, but keep it up.
Thanks. It's easy to understand if you're an accountant, but if you're a layperson, a lot of this stuff is just it's a foreign language basically. So like I said too, if you have any questions or anything, reach out to Jerry and he can get in touch with me too if you have questions after this. But yeah, I try to make it as simple as possible and explain things as easily as I can. So thanks for the compliment.
Jim,
I'll
I
probably-
just wanted to echo Dan's sentiment, actually. I think you did a great job. And I was curious if you, I know Canuti and Associates, I think, was the company we used in the past, which was bought by Sikich. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
correct.
And so were you part of Sikich originally, or were you part of Canuti? Have you worked on our audit in the past is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I'm part of Sikich, so I've worked my entire career at Sikich. I've been there almost 26 years now. So I've worked on local government all 26 years. So I have a lot of experience in the local government industry. But yeah, I was on it last year. I was the partner on the engagement. I think Kate handled most. I think Kate did the presentation last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kate left us a few weeks ago. So. That's why I'm here doing the presentation tonight, but we kind of switch on and off. It's like the partner may do it or the manager may do it. It just depends on availability a lot of times. So I do a lot of these, so I'm kind of used to it. But and that was part of the reason too. It was probably late last year too. Was we, when we acquired Canuti, we took on about 100 government engagements. So trying to staff those was a little bit of a struggle. So that was, most likely part of the delay last year too. But this year, much smoother. So.
Right. Well, that's great. I mean, to know that was a fluke year, I'm sure gives us all a lot of peace of mind. Did I catch toward the end of your presentation something about greater board participation in the future as being a goal? I'm not quite sure I heard exactly what you said.
Well, not necessarily a goal, but it's just when you've got a small staff, it's hard to have segregation of duties. So segregating out the custody, the authorization, and recording. So when you don't have a big staff, a lot of times, there may be a little more involvement on the board level as far as just reviewing items. But you do a lot of that now. You're reviewing bill lists and things like that. But it's just something to be cognizant of and to just to keep that in the back of the mind. Be kind of.
I'll jump in with an example there, Martha. It would be preferable and better if we got back to where we were before COVID, with board members signing the checks instead of it being me and Brian signing the checks. Just to have another area of segregation. I understand why we've been doing what we've been doing the last few months, but that's not the ideal way for us to be handling the check signing.
Right.
Jim, if I could jump in and just ask on the deficiencies, the matter of the interest income, and I'll probably follow up with you after the meeting for some more discussion on that one, but just so the commissioners are aware of the issue, the significance of the issue a little bit. I can see where it would be pretty straightforward to do an entry before we close the books out for the year to allocate the interest income across the funds. And at first, that was all I thought about. And then the more I've been kind of mulling this over in my head, I've realized, well, no, it's going to have impact in when we draft our appropriations ordinance and impact when we draft our levy ordinance because of the Exhibit A, where we have to map out how the funding is going to happen.
Yeah.
And kind of what's the allocation basis that we have to use to distribute that money? Is it allocated by the same percentage of the tax revenue? Is it by the fund balances? If it is the fund balances, at what time in year? Can it be a kind of a year delay where we're doing it on the basis of what the position was at year end? Just a lot of implementation kind of questions. I don't want to put you on the spot and make you answer today, but that's kind of where my mind has wandered off to.
Yeah, I mean, usually you could probably do it. You guys are pretty small. You could probably do it just as a year-end entry, just allocating it out based on, average cash balance or ending cash balance. It's a requirement of GASB 31 to allocate it out. If you allocate cash out, then you should allocate the investment income instead of just relegating it to one fund. But yeah, you're right. I mean, you may have, it may have some budget implications and some tax levy implications, but a lot of times, since you're so much smaller, it's probably easier to just do like a year-end entry for it. But
the concern I guess I would have is that whatever method we use needs to be some certain type of methodology, because it's just going to be ridiculous. By the time you slice it down to some of these smaller funds, it's going to be such a tiny dollar amount. We're going to spend more money trying to account for it and track it than we're actually earning an interest.
Yeah, it's not real material. I mean, it might be something you want to do on a monthly basis. If you didn't allocate it out to a lot of the really smaller funds, it probably wouldn't be a huge deal. But
okay, but yeah, like replacement tax revenue, we don't allocate out to the small funds. We just keep it to the major funds.
Yeah, one of our.
Okay, I'll talk offline more on that with you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, we're probably boring everybody. So.
Any other questions or comments for Jim?
Nope.
Okay. Thanks so much, Jim, for presenting to us.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay, so moving back to our agenda as it was, we would be moving into monthly reports, and we'll hear from Brian first.
Okay, past month has been busy with a few major items that you've seen on the agenda. First, Jerry Gibbs and I, mostly Jerry, have been completing various audit duties to present to you, and it was just presented. As of this writing, we are on track to complete those tasks and present the audit on December 10th. Well done by Jim and Jerry. Kudos to those guys. We will also need to pass a levy ordinance tonight. Thanks to Jerry and Charles for their work on this. It'll be a relief when they're both complete and we can move on to other things in the office. The maintenance crew has been very busy completing fall cleanup at various parks. They have also constructed the ice rink at Cayman East, and we now will wait for some consistently cold temperatures. It's supposed to rain all weekend, so it's not soon. So we can install the liner and begin to flood the rink in layers. As most of you know, Ruben is on vacation for the rest of the month of December. So we've hired, Kevin Williams is now going to work through about January 15th. He works our youth in the parks, or has worked our youth in the parks, doing a very nice job with Marcos. We received Illinois Public Risk Fund a rebate to invest in various safety items. They give us a list. We chose the snow blower from their list of approved items. You'll see that invoice coming up. Or you already saw that in. Yeah, you saw that invoice. So we did pass the bills. I've been in discussion with Lawrence Hemingway with the city of Evanston regarding pop-up food pantry at the David Wood Fieldhouse. It may happen in the very near future in conjunction with the Evanston Health Department. I will keep you posted. The pantry will tentatively be on select Thursdays for those in need. I had a discussion with Lawrence today, and that's been delayed or restructured. So I'll keep you posted. The restructuring may not even involve us, but we're happy to do it. And I told them if they need us, we're here. So I'll keep you posted on that. Natalie Salee will give you an update on the latest effects of COVID-19 on our programs. She has worked very hard to make sure our patrons have safe program options. Also, Abby Lavelle has been settling into her job duties quite well and is becoming more comfortable and confident. Jerry dumped some stuff on her today, or yesterday. So that went over well. She's interested and she's working hard on a few items. The staff and I wish everyone a safe and happy holiday season. It's crazy out there, so please be careful. That's it.
Thanks, Brian. The food pantry makes me wonder about the district food that we were helping to disseminate. Is that still happening as well, or?
No, that's being handled at District 65.
Okay. And this pantry is not one of those pantries that would be like a physical installation. It's just
no. This was originally. I was originally told it was a community development block grant through the health department, but we're still waiting. There's been some restructure. We may be a part of it. We may not. But it'd be like every other Thursday into February, and it hasn't started yet. So I'll just keep you posted.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Brian? All right. Thank you, Brian. Moving on to Jerry's report.
Okay. As we've kind of talked about, a lot of progress was made on the audit and the annual report, and it was rather remarkable because in November, we learned that Kate, who has for many years been our contact at the audit company, had left the firm. Jim stepped in to take the reins. And when I wrote this report, we didn't yet have the final reports, but we got them late in the day yesterday. So hooray, we pulled it off. It was getting dicey there for a while. But having received that, I was also able to then produce the public funds statement of receipts and disbursements, which is an annual report that we're required to produce. And I've been able to post the general ledger accounting entries for this fiscal year up through the end of November. So in your packet, you should have received a copy of that statement of receipts and disbursements. I'm happy to take any questions on that. I'm going to quickly run through the other reports, and I'll be happy to take any comments or questions on any of those as well. Starting with the appropriations ledger, It shows that our overall spending of the annual budget is at about 32%, or a total of $308,000 versus an anticipated target of 38%, meaning we're running a bit under budget. And that's fairly typical for this time of year. Our salary expenses are running a bit above the budget, not much. Usually we're higher than that above the budget on salaries because we've had the impact of the summer programs, but without the programs being staffed, we didn't have as heavy a program staffing expense. Looking at the balance sheet, when you look at the taxes receivable line and go over to the far right column where we have the combining total, we are only owed about $18,000 in property taxes. So our well is running dry. It's a good thing we have arrived at the point in the year where we're going to pass the levy ordinance to bring in some more tax revenue in the months ahead because we're running out of funding. We did not receive any tax revenue in the month of November, and we typically don't get very much at all in the months of December and January. So we're at that time of year where our revenue is very minimal, but our operating costs continue to take place each month. We'll see the impact of that when we get to the statement of revenue and appropriations. There's a new section on the balance sheet this month for this fiscal year. I have included a supplemental subledger for the capital projects fund. We've typically just reported the grand total in that, but we've got a unique kind of setup nowadays that we have the Vandenhaven bequest pool of money that needs to be tracked and kept separate because that's designated to a specific purpose. And then we have whatever other budgeted projects we've got going on in the capital improvements fund. So that's what the subledger is showing you, is what the remaining balance is in each type of pool of funds that adds up to the total in the fund of almost $57,000. Moving on to the statement of revenue and appropriations. Looking at the all funds total column, if you go down to the bottom of it, it shows that we have brought in about $24,000 more in revenue than we've paid out the door in disbursements so far. But as we go into the next couple months, and we're going to probably see that reverse where we're going to have spent more money than we've brought in until we start to see program revenue for the summer programs and tax revenue from the tax levy start to come in the door again. So this is the time of year when it's good that we have those cash reserves because they are what are going to fund our operations for the next 2 or 3 months. Moving on to the outstanding items report. This is a little longer than we like to see, primarily because we've had the financials locked down for such an extended period of time due to the audit, which is typical. We just haven't been able to keep up with these or track these or have visibility on them in the last few months. So that's the work that Brian was referencing. I dumped on Abby this week. Was I gave her a copy of this report and have highlighted for her what the most urgent items are to work on figuring out what went astray and getting it corrected and resolved. I'll comment on a couple of them and ask for a motion to be made to address 3 of the items. The motion that I'm asking for would be that the approval for the petty cash bills for November be amended from $1,290.56 to $1,290.66 to correct the posting of an item for $14.85 that should have been recorded as $14.95 payable to American Meadows. The supporting documents clearly show that the correct amount should be $14.95. And with this correction, we'll be able to clear out the outstanding items for $211.70, the related unapproved credit for $196.75, as well as the outstanding approved but not yet cleared entry for $14.85. I'll pause and ask if somebody would please address that.
McCourt will make a motion to approve the total for the petty cash bills for November 2020 be amended from $1,290.56 to $1,290.66 to correct the posting item of $14.85.
Braun, second it.
Okay, roll call vote. Braun,
Yes,
Coin,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
McCourt,
Yes.
and Mitchell.
Yes.
Thank you. A couple other items on the report that I'll highlight. We've got the most important items to address at this point. We have several program refund checks from last May through July that still have not cleared. The longer these sit on the report, the harder it is to track things down and correct them. So if they get attention sooner rather than later, it will make life easier for everybody. And Abby's working on that. And the City of Evanston, you see a $6,000 entry on there. City of Evanston has once again misplaced our payment to them for the after-school program. Natalie is working with Brian and the city to figure out how we're going to handle that. We may have to reissue them another check and put a stop payment on the first one. And that's all I've got on that report. Last report in my set is the reconcilement of the fund balances to the cash and investments accounts, or the Treasury Fund reconcilement. It shows that we have no accounts in excess of the FDIC limits, as well as how the money is distributed across the funds from the bank accounts that are held in the general fund. That is all I've got. I'm happy to answer any questions or other input. And if none, we can move on.
Any questions for Jerry?
Just,
All right. Oh,
thanks
go
for your
ahead.
hard work. Thanks for your hard work, Jerry and Brian, to get the audit taken care of. I know you guys had a lot to do with that too.
It was touch and go there for a little bit, but I have to say, working with this with Jim Savio, once we got engaged with him, it was a joy. He was very, very easy and good to work with.
Was he a partner or is he?
He was basically Kate's boss. It's who Kate reported to.
Do you think he'll be doing it next year too, or?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I hope so, because it was terrific working with him. What you didn't see, that we managed to get some things pulled out of the deficiencies that had been in there, that when I had raised them with Kate, it didn't. I just didn't seem to get them addressed, and you know, and that's typical. We'll have discussion. You know, it's kind of like they have their position. I kind of look at it, question it, learn more about it, maybe challenge it a little bit. And sometimes they yield and come to our side. Other times they stand their ground and kind of say, I'm going to have to be the one to adjust my position. That was kind of like, as of late in the day yesterday, that was still on the report. And there was an issue on the report that wasn't coming off. And I truly in my heart of hearts felt that it was wrong, that it was there. And when I was able to engage with Jim on it, and then he asked me for a specific set of documentation that I was able to provide to him from Chase Bank, he instantly, stepped in, got the reports corrected, got it pulled, and cleaned it up. So it had to do with FDIC balances and having accounts that they didn't have it documented fully and fully understand what our collateral arrangement is on the Chase accounts. So that was terrific working with them on that, like at the 11th hour.
That's great.
Jared, do you think he stepped in with us because Kate left, or do you have a sense of?
I honestly don't know. They've been very, they just stuck very tightly to a party line, just a very generic answer that, it was just a mutual decision that she's no longer there.
Okay. Well, thank you for those details. I'm not sure I totally understand why that one particular Chase issue was a hiccup, but it sounds like once you were clear with them, they understood what they needed to do.
Ultimately, he apologized on that one and said that it was just in the handoff transition from Canuti to Sikich and from Kate to him, they just didn't have the full picture of the background on the situation. And once he had that, he was totally good with it.
Okay, great. Hello? Okay, so we're moving on to Natalie's report.
Hi, everybody. All right, this month we're celebrating the special needs community with a reading of Jewel by Brett Lott. The Ridgeville readers will meet virtually on December 27th at 3 p.m. to discuss, and all are welcome. Studio 908 classes. The winter session of our classes are wrapping up December 12th. We paused in-person classes and transitioned as many as we could to either online classes or outdoor classes. And this was due to the state of Illinois Tier 3 resurgence mitigations that were put forth or given to us. The classes that were paused are going to pick up for their final 2 meets the week of January 3rd, right before the winter session begins. This has worked out. Everybody, instructors, patrons, everybody has been really patient and great about all of this. It's been kind of a whirlwind, but everybody's done a really terrific job kind of going with the flow and making my life easy, and I appreciate that. So thank you to everybody involved in that. But registration for our winter classes will open next Monday. It'll be an 8-week session that begins January 17th. Those classes some of them are set to be in person. We're just going to play it by ear again. If the Tier 3 resurgence mitigations are lifted, then we'll go about the session as planned. If not, then we'll do the same thing and transition as many of those classes online as we can or outdoors. It's cold, so outdoors is a little challenging, but for some of them it works. Our winter camps, I'm excited. We're going to offer 2 virtual winter camps through Zoom. These are designed for kids ages 8 to 12. The dates for the camp will be December 21st to the 23rd and December 28th through the 30th. JC Herman is going to lead a creative arts camp from 10 to 11:30. And we have a new camp director, Maria Guringer, who's going to lead a Pokemon camp from 12 to 1:30. I'm so excited about this. We have some registration for this camp already, and I'm thrilled. I hope the kids are happy too. The cost for the camps is $10 a day per camp. I also have plenty of activity packs left over from this summer to offer to any participants who need them, and I will deliver those to their homes as needed. Ice skating, Brian mentioned the rink is up at Cayman East. We're just waiting on cold weather to fill and freeze it, put down the liner. I'm going to post updates on the website and on social media as soon as we get it up and running to let folks know when it's open. We have received some inquiries about the rink, so it seems like people are really looking forward to this outdoor activity. So even though it was really beautiful outside today, keep your fingers crossed for some cold weather so we can get them outside and ice skating. Our spring summer brochure is scheduled to come out towards the end of February. I've been working on it to confirm our spring classes and our summer camp offerings, which you can imagine is challenging, not knowing where we're going to be, what the status of COVID will be at that time. I will talk a little bit here next about our summer camp plans, but there will be lots of notes in the brochure, just letting folks know that we're following the rules that the state of Illinois is giving us. We're doing our best. This is what we're planning for, but be patient and understand that we have to be flexible just according to what's going to happen. So the scheduled date for that brochure to come out is I believe February 22nd. Summer camp plans. So I have included here in my report kind of a layout of what I've been working on with both the Ready Committee and Brian in terms of what I plan to do for our summer camps. They are going to look different than they have in the past. The goal is to run some camps in person. because capacity limits for the space currently are set at 25% capacity, we have to be really careful about how many participants we allow into into all of our camps. So what I have planned is we'll do 2 summer camp sessions like we normally do. The first session will be June 7th through July 2nd. The second session will be July 6th through July 30th. I am not planning on doing any mini camps this summer. The goal is to keep, regardless of where the capacity is at, even if it's still at 25% at that point, or it's open to more, the goal is to keep the same people in the same space consistently. So there's not a lot of back and forth or cleaning between like a morning group of kids and an afternoon group of kids. The goal is to keep the same group of people in the spaces, really for safety. So with that in mind, I am planning to offer a creative arts camp for kids ages 6 to 8 at Cayman Park East. This is going to be a full day camp, which is something that has been requested for a very long time from families. So I'm excited about that. This means I won't be able to run mini camps with partner organizations, but again, I think that's okay. So this will be a creative arts camp for ages 6 to 8, Monday through Friday from 9 to 4 at Cayman East. Currently, the maximum enrollment for this camp is 10 kids. Then additionally, we will run a creative arts camp for ages 9 through 12, Monday through Friday from 9 to 4 at Ridgeville Park, another full day camp. Maximum enrollment for this camp will be 15 kids. We will offer extended care for both of these camps in the AM and the PM. The lunch hour will be included in the cost of camp. Right now, those maximum enrollments are very low, and that's because capacity for those spaces has to be kept at 25%. As this vaccine comes out and things hopefully are getting better, we will increase that maximum enrollment as much as we possibly can. But for now, for the purposes of the brochure, it has to stay at this number. So we're running 2 sessions, June and July. We're not going to run any sessions in August. At that time, I'm going to hopefully work with some of our partner organizations. I'm in talks with the Imaginary Game, which is extremely popular at Ridgeville, working with them to offer 2 to 3 weeks of camp in August, full day. And then I'm also working with Playwell Technologies to offer 2 to 3 weeks of camp at Cayman East. So the Imaginary Game would be at Ridgeville. Playwell Technologies would be at Cayman. Playwell Technology, we've worked with them for many, many years. They do Lego camps. They were supposed to run a full day Pokemon camp this past summer, which was full. So we are going to try to get it back on the books for next August. In terms of registration, this is something else that I worked with the Ready Committee on a lot to make sure that because the maximum enrollment is so small, we want to make sure that it's equitable the way people are able to sign up for camps, and that we're filling those spaces, those spots that we have available with the families who absolutely need it the most. So my plan currently is to do an application process as opposed to like a registration day. The application process will be open from February 22nd to April 2nd. There are 3 criteria that we're asking families to meet, at least 2 out of the 3 criteria to apply for a spot in our camp. Those 3 criteria are that they are a Ridgeville resident, that 1 or more guardian is an essential worker, and that the family was approved for the District 65 free and reduced price meal program in the 2019-2020 school year. Once we've received all the applications and the application date is closed on April 2nd, we'll do a lottery for those camp spots on April 5th. Basically, the rest of that month, we will register and collect payment for the selected participants. If we're able to offer more camp spots, which fingers crossed again, I hope that we are, we will start first with that application pool until everybody has been offered a spot in camp. Once we have offered spots to all of the applicants, assuming we can, we're going to have a wait list as well for anybody who missed the application deadline, and then we'll start to pull from that wait list. We work with the TED Fund every year. I would like to reserve 2 spots per camp for TED Fund campers. And of course, scholarship opportunities will still be made available for all of our participants. And that's it. That's a lot of information, but that's where I'm at with camps right now. It's really challenging. It's really hard to figure out how to make all this work and do this with so many question marks in the air. And I feel like I'm really grateful for the Ready Committee. I'm really grateful for Brian for kind of helping me think through this. And I think we've come up with a pretty solid plan. So,
Natalie, this is Commissioner Coyne.
Hi.
Wow. Thank you.
Oh,
If my takeaway from your report, just help me out if I hear you right. In February till first couple days in April, there's going to be a summer camp, spring camp application window, and you're using an equitable lens to pull in families that are in that District 65 free lunch group. You're really looking at folks that are from Ridgeville. Thank you. That sounds wonderful. Now, is that, I'm right now in a different room. I don't have your written report in front of me. Is that part of your written report, those criteria?
yes, it's all there.
Yeah, because I think we should advertise it. That's wonderful. Thank you, Natalie.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And it will be advertised. This will be in the brochure. Yes, this will be advertised. Thank you.
Natalie, thank you for your report and thank you for tackling these additional components to your job, which are no fun and are complicated and a lot of work. So I'm sorry you have to deal with that. And I think you're doing a great job. So thanks again.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you to Brian and the Ready Committee for listening to me and letting me bounce some ideas off of them. It was very helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Any other questions or comments for Natalie? Okay, then we are going to move on to the monthly report from the Ready Committee, which will be delivered to us by JC Herman. I'll turn it over to you, JC.
Hey, everybody. Well, you heard a little bit of our work with Natalie. In addition, the Ready Committee has also been working towards writing an equity statement. We will then be moving into writing our charter. We also discussed that our agenda items, as in terms of the Ready Committee agenda items, come from the Ridgeville Board. Once items have been added to the Ready Committee agenda, the committee will discuss the items and present the board with recommendations. And that's all I got for you.
Thank you,
Hi,
JC.
this is Commissioner Coyne.
Hi there.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. My question is, so far, the Ready Committee has not been a public forum. Do you know when that will happen and how the public will know to access your committee?
Yes, so our meetings will become public in January, and much like the other, the board meetings, the link for the Zoom meeting and everything will go out ahead of time.
Okay. Any other questions for JC from anybody?
I do. JC, do you have a preference on how items are referred to the Ready Committee?
I don't think so. I would have to double check, with Dr. Effiam and Debbie. It looks like Debbie has something to say too.
I can answer that. When a situation comes up, then any commissioner can request to refer the item, can have a motion, can move to refer the item to the Ready Committee for research and recommendation. So it's basically when an issue comes up, a commissioner makes a motion to refer it to the Ready Committee.
Great. I love it. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thanks again, JC. Did anybody else have any questions for JC? No. Okay. Thanks again for the report. Okay, so we're moving into the old business section of the agenda. point A there says, discuss amendments to the general ordinance of the Ridgeville Park District, section 6.14 and 6.21. Mitchell?
Thank you. I have not done any substantive work on this since last month. I was ready to vote on this last month. I'm also ready to vote on it today. There was a majority of the board that wanted to table it last month. And I'd say the only update I have is I had some conversation with Pat McCourt regarding maybe some compromise. Pat, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was hoping we could, this is a McCourt, I was hoping we could deal with that next month.
Okay. Then I would move to table this until next month.
I'll
Is there a
second.
second?
McCourt will second.
Great.
Okay.
Julie?
Yep. Roll call vote. Braun,
Yes.
Coin,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
McCourt,
Yes.
Mitchell.
Yes.
Okay, so moving down the agenda, point B, discuss update on policies inspired by the IEPD self-assessment. This is also Mitchell's.
Thank you. There's just two things. I brought them up briefly last month. I don't have anything to present or move tonight, but the two issues are, one is a scholarship policy. And at this point, I'd be inclined to refer that to the Ready Committee. Does that make sense?
Are you asking a question or are you referring it to the Ready Committee?
You just make a motion to refer to the Ready Committee for research and recommendation.
So I would move to refer to the Ready Committee, research and recommendation regarding a scholarship policy for summer camps.
This is Coin. I second.
All right. Roll call vote. Braun,
Actually, I'm sorry, Julie. I'm just trying to understand exactly what you're referring. Do you have that proposal of something that is put together that you want the Ready Committee to take a look at? Or are you asking the Ready Committee to do research on scholarships from an equity perspective?
I can send you work that I have. I don't have a proposal.
Okay.
Well, yeah. The Ready Committee won't make a proposal. We'll just make recommendations and comment on what you're going to send us about scholarships. But we don't make a proposal, or we don't make a, we send the recommendations back to the Ready Committee, and then the Ready Committee, and then the board, we send it back to the board, and then the board makes, votes on what it is.
So would the Ready Committee prefer that I send a draft of a scholarship policy?
I would say at a minimum.
How you want to do it.
Yeah, I would be wary of dropping like too much work into the Ready Committee's lap and asking them to start from scratch on something. I would say at least a draft, and probably like, from the IAPD self-assessment, anything that touched on scholarships in particular that can sort of give us a baseline as to where the IAPD would want to see us, showing up in the realm of scholarships. I don't currently know the details. Yeah, Natalie, you want to chime in?
Yeah, Matt, I was just going to say, I know you and I have been talking a lot about the scholarship stuff. I think if we want to put together, based on the research that you've already done in our conversations, if we want to put something together as a suggestion, I think you and I can work on that. And then we can give it to the Ready Committee to look at it through an equity lens and make sure that it all makes sense. Does that sound okay?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't think there's a motion then currently. Is that something maybe, Mitchell, you'll be letting us know in the future when you've got that ready to give to the Ready Committee?
Yes.
Okay.
Point of order. There's been a motion and a second on the table.
It's my motion, correct?
Yeah,
I'd move to withdraw the motion.
I second.
I'll second.
We need a roll call vote on the withdrawal, the motion.
Probably.
Yes, that's what it requires.
Okay, so Mitchell moved to withdraw, Coin seconded. Roll call vote, Braun,
Yes.
Coin,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
McCourt,
Yes.
Mitchell.
Yes.
If I could for just a minute, once this gets referred to the Ready Committee and the Ready Committee starts working on it, those all need to be public meetings then. We're crossing a threshold, and they have to comply with the Open Meetings Act.
Okay, that's a good note, Charlie. So,
Yeah.
and whenever there's an official referral to the committee, that is the point at which OMA rules need to be followed.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. I would assume then that if the referral is made prior to, the timing of those meetings going public, that no work would take place in the committee in private meetings. It would wait until the meetings are public. I don't see another course of action for that particular point. But if anyone has any issues with that or alternative suggestions, we can talk about that. Okay. Moving on then, discuss addition of skate equipment to the Ridgeville Park Court. This is listed as Mitchell's and mine. I don't have anything new. Do you, Commissioner Mitchell?
No, just that most of the temporary skate equipment has been taken down voluntarily by the folks who put it up, in good faith and good spirit. Brian, do you have anything to add?
I do not, but I will just second what you said. And I think I told the board this earlier, that in my communication with the skaters and the Ridgeville Rampers, they were first class. They wanted to create goodwill and make sure that hopefully good things happen in the future with the skate area.
That's great. Thank you. I'll reach out to them prior to the next meeting. I know one of their concerns was, would they be able to put up temporary skate equipment in the spring? And Ridgeville made no commitment towards that.
Right. I'm getting, in the next month, I'll get the bid package ready for the 3 courts. So there has to be a decision made probably next month on, are we going to resurface? Are we going to paint that court? And obviously we need it for camp, and then go forward with temporary skate equipment next spring. So the 2-part answer would be probably yes on both. We need to resurface it, and then at some point in time when it's done, temporary skate equipment if the board approves.
I don't have anything further on the skate issue.
Okay. Moving on then, discuss the request for horseshoe pits at parks. This is listed as yours, Mitchell. Is there something new on this?
I have a little bit of something. Matt, do you have anything?
No, I was going to kick it to you.
Okay, I spoke with Joseph Tan. Is that how you pronounce it, Tan? Is it T-A-N-N? Anyways, Joseph's a really nice guy, lives over on Asbury. He's the main interest in a horseshoe pit at one of our parks. In our discussion, we talked about the size and the needs. There are some safety issues to it. There needs to be a backstop or a backboard. I actually found some. I talked to Matt earlier in the week, and I found Chicago Park District has them everywhere, numerous parks. And the closest park to us is Mather Park on Peterson in California. And if you take Peterson and hang a right on if you take California, hang a right on Peterson, heading west, it comes up on your left-hand side. You'll see the horseshoe pits if anybody wants to drive by and take a peek. I'm going to actually drive by, get out of the vehicle and take a look at the spacing they did. They have 5, 6, 7 horseshoe pits there. I didn't count, but there's several right next to the tennis courts if you get confused. At any rate, I'm going to do that in the next couple of weeks before it snows. And then I'll have an updated report for you next week or next month. I will also try to find out what kind of usage they get. That might be a little more difficult. And make sure they're recreation pits and not some kind of sanctioned pit that we don't want. We just want, if we go for it, a recreation pit that doesn't have to have asphalt here and concrete there. I just remember as a kid seeing horseshoe pits either at forest preserves or wherever our family outings were, and it was just basically sand area with the stake in it and marched off a number of feet. I think we anticipate something more than that, but not something highly professional. But again, I'll update you with what I have next month. What other news I have for next month.
Thank you. I'll try to check those out too.
Thanks, Brian. That's good to know. We have some kind of close by that we can take a look at to get a reference for what those are like. Moving on, then we've got final point of old business is discuss Zoom protocols for board meetings, and this is McCourt's item. Did you want to speak on this, Pat?
Sure. Charles, you were going to investigate that and see what the ramifications were for that.
Yes. Yes, I did. I took a look at the governor's proclamation and the statute that was passed in June regarding the Open Meetings Act. So the requirements are that you can have audio or visual meetings. And I think when they say visual, it's actually audio and visual meetings. The only requirements that are in there is that each member of the board has to be able to be heard and hear each other member of the board. So that's a floor, a minimum that has to be applied across the board for these meetings. So to the extent we can see people, that's not required by the governor, and there's nothing that says you can't create a higher standard.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I personally think with a 5-person board, it makes sense for all of us to be seen, throughout the meeting. But if that's what it says, and you only legally have to do, audio, then it's just a matter of how people want to interact with each other, in my opinion. So we can move on. Take it off the agenda for next month, please.
Debbie?
I would just like to say that exactly, we can't, since it's not a law, everybody just has to do what they feel is right. But I personally find it very annoying and to have either somebody's room or people walking in and out. I mean, I just want that recorded, that it's very annoying.
Okay. So I heard from McCourt that, you're not pursuing protocols as is listed on the agenda currently.
Correct. I think I've made my point, and Debbie's made a point, and it is what it is, and let's move ahead and get our business taken care of.
Okay. Moving on.
This is Commissioner Coyne on this discussion. I have a question for our corporate counsel. Are you on?
Yes.
Could you let us know either now or next month approximately what you're billing our district for researching this question?
So,
Yeah, so I would tell you approximately $250.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Get your help.
Okay, so moving on to new business, discuss and pass 2020/2021 levy ordinance. I believe I would be turning this over to Charlie then.
Okay, so I think everybody's seen the levy ordinance. It's really just it's taking the appropriations ordinance and putting it into a levy ordinance form. Once we pass that, we can give it to the county clerk, and that's what allows us to draw money out of the tax collections. So there really shouldn't be anything different here. There's nothing to really debate. This is what you've already decided back in September. This just allows us to tax for it.
So you're looking for a motion. I'll make a motion to make a motion to approve the 2020, 2021 levy ordinance for the Ridgeville Park District.
I'll second it. Braun.
This is Commissioner Coyne. This is discussion time. Jerry, I have a question for you. Are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Jerry. My question is, of course, I support the levy and our ability to collect taxes. So many of our government neighbors, our school districts, 202, 65, and our city and our county and our state and our federal government, are all readjusting their budgets because of the reality of COVID's economic impact. They anticipate less taxes coming in. And the tune of, for our neighbors, painful cuts. Millions of dollars will have to be reduced from our districts and their schools and in our city. Given that, is there any educated guess on your part on how this levy might actually be less given the COVID impact going forward, or do you anticipate 100% being taxed?
I think the first comment I would make is I'm not aware of any reasons why tax revenue is being cut by any government bodies. I think the government bodies that are facing financial issues have more to do with lost revenue from their other sources. For example, in our case, we budgeted that our program fee revenue would be substantially less, and we adjusted our expenditures accordingly. But the tax revenues are a pretty stable source of funding. It would take legislative action at the state level to cut our ability to draw upon those tax revenues, and I'm not aware of anything that has done that. The closest thing I'm aware of is there was some concern that people wouldn't pay their property taxes on time. And of course, if they don't, they face late fees. And if they take too long to get them paid, they lose their property because their property gets sold to tax scavenger sales. In fact, I have not seen in our collection of tax revenues at the county level, that was one of the highlights in my report tonight was how on the balance sheet, we pretty much got everything we're expected to have gotten. So we're in good shape. Maybe some people were a little late paying it. The reality is most people that own residential real estate and have a mortgage, their mortgage lender is taking the tax payment each month in the mortgage payment and putting it in an escrow account. And it's actually the lender who is paying the tax bill, not the property owner. And I think that's a major reason why we haven't seen a significant hit in the timing of the receipt of those tax bills, because I think it's a smaller number of people that pay their own tax bill directly. And they may have been late a month or two, but they aren't going to miss it too long because they'd run the risk of losing their property. So that's why I think, we're in good shape. Our budget adjusted our expenditures. We just, as we created our appropriations ordinance, we did our best guess at making it. And ours is a much simpler budget than, say, the school districts that have bonds and interest payments and have a number of other revenue sources than program fees and taxes. We're just so simple. I think that's their issues are more tied to their debt obligations and their complexities and their revenue sources.
Yeah,
Thank you, Jerry.
I'd like to add, it's important. You don't want to compare apples and oranges. Anybody who's getting tax revenue based on the property taxes, that's going to come in the same basically as it has in years past. it's other revenue sources that are the issue. School districts have significant other revenue sources that you don't have. The state of Illinois has an income tax. Those are all different issues. But the property tax, the property base is pretty much the same, and you're pretty much going to raise the same amount of money. There'll be some variation. There always will be every year, but it's a pretty stable source of revenue.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie and Jerry. Moving
I think
on.
the only revenue category we may see a shortfall in is a relatively insignificant part of our budget, and that is our interest income. We interest rates have just gone down so low that we're getting minuscule amounts of interest revenue on our excess balances in the banks right now, and that's just the nature of the financial industry and what our interest rates are at. So we've had a few good years of some good interest income. I think we're going to see a shortfall this year as to what we planned. But when you look at our revenue sources, interest revenue is not a big component. So it's short, but it's not going to hurt us.
Thanks, Jerry. Unless anyone has anything additional, we're moving down the agenda. We had already moved the audit up. So the next point is discussing certifying.
We have to vote on the levy ordinance.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. So nobody has any other discussion points before we vote? Okay. I think we had the motion in second. Yeah, so Julie can roll call us.
Sure. Commissioner Braun? Debbie Braun? Yes.
Yes.
Coin?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
McCourt?
Yes.
And Mitchell?
Yes.
Okay, so moving on, discuss and certify the annual financial report.
Martha, can we hold on 1 second?
Yeah.
I think Natalie will probably get a hold of you tomorrow, but we need you to sign it. And then we have to get it to Charles ASAP.
Yeah, the good thing is Martha and Natalie will have to sign, and then it just gets scanned in and emailed to me because I no longer go to the office. I can now do it over the internet and file it.
Brian, can I sign this copy that I have and scan it, or do you want me to come physically sign?
Charles?
You can sign the copy you have, scan it, and get it to Natalie. She can sign that copy, and that's fine. Natalie, just make sure you fill in that everybody voted yes by name.
Charles, I like the look of your living room.
Thank you. It's hard to find a place for the Christmas tree, though.
Martha, whatever's easier for you. If you want to sign and scan to me, or I can drive by your house tomorrow.
Okay, I'll connect with you tomorrow on that, Natalie. Okay, moving on then to discuss and certify the annual financial report.
I believe we've already done that, haven't we?
So that was part of the audit.
Yeah,
I don't know that we voted on that, did we?
we didn't vote on it. I don't know if you need to. No.
We don't need to, Charlie. Okay.
You got a report, you accepted it.
Yeah, you don't. I don't think you need to. We have the report.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was part of that certification or whatever because of that language, but yeah, that's fine.
You know, to be on the safe side, why don't we just have a motion to accept the report?
Okay.
I can do it and everybody can vote on it. And it's done.
Sure.
20 seconds.
This
Okay,
is
is there a-
Commissioner Coyne, so moved.
Second, McCourt.
Roll call vote. Commissioner Braun?
Yes.
Coin?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
McCourt?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
All right, thanks everybody. So we're looking at our annual calendar next. discussing that and approving those proposed meeting dates. I have not had a chance to check this against holidays. Has anyone taken a look at that specifically?
I wrote these dates and there were no holidays around them that I can remember. Charles, correct me if I'm wrong, but if they approve this calendar, they can always change the date later.
Correct.
Debbie, I know we did have a conflict with the Jewish holiday previously. Do you want to take a look real quick right now, or are you okay with?
Usually Brian sees that on his calendar, but I think we're all right. Yeah.
This is Commissioner Coyne. I just make a motion to accept the dates as written.
Second, McCourt.
Okay, roll call vote. Braun,
Yes.
Coyne,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
McCourt,
Yes.
Mitchell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're already at call of the commissioners. As always, we'll go alphabetically here. So Commissioner Braun, did you have anything you want to say?
No.
Okay, Commissioner Coyne.
Yes. Three things. One, to our neighbors near and far, just happy Hanukkah. As we light over the next 8 days the different candles, may there be more light shedding and filling our darkness. I find this to be a very significant and powerful reminder that all of us need to think about ways to make our world lighter. So happy Hanukkah. Second thing is, we have a number of candidates running in our local elections in Evanston for open seats. Right now, there's about 26. 2 got kicked off because of a challenge through the electoral board in Evanston. And a third candidate's hearing is tomorrow, but it's looking like there'll probably be about 26 candidates for the April 6th election. And I just want to give a shout out to every neighbor who's willing to take the time to become a candidate and to think of ways to be part of the team to make our community better. So I just want to say thank you to all the candidates and all the people involved in these elections. I encourage all of our constituents south of Greenleaf to really look at those candidates and think of ways that we can be involved in helping these different campaigns so that people have a good choice when it comes to April 6th. The last thing I just want to say is a COVID-related comment. As a social worker, school social worker in District 65, I'm in touch with quite a few families who are struggling. And I just want to say that really all of our commissioners in our district here at Ridgeville, we understand the pain that people are going through. There's housing issues, there's instability and hunger because of food problems. Unemployment is rampant. Businesses are being shut down in the tunes of 33%. So all that said, I just want our neighbors to know that we at Ridgeville want to be a community that includes everybody. And I just want you to know, if you are struggling as a family and through this COVID time, that you can reach out to us. We'll be there. We've been here for over, I forget how many years, since 1937, and we'll be here for just as many in the future. But during this tough time when the clouds seem dark, we all need to help each other to light our community, to help each other in any way we can. Thank you.
I am going to pass on call of the commissioners, and next it would be Pat. Anything from you?
Nope.
Okay, Commissioner Mitchell?
I don't have anything tonight.
All right, great. So we are in a citizen comment section again, and I do know that Dr. Effiam would like to speak. So I'll give the floor to you first, Pat.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for this opportunity. I just really want to publicly go on record to say you all need to be applauded and celebrate the work of how the Ready Committee has come together and is already working in partnership with the board and the staff. I also want to give particular kudos to both Brian and Natalie for openly embracing this and taking the time to understand what it means to work as a Ready Committee. So I just want to make that clear. I also want to point out that tonight is the first night of Hanukkah. And while I know the board meetings are set in advance, this is a good time to think about how we honor and celebrate holidays and sometimes limit ourselves. The question becomes, would we be having a meeting if this were Christmas Day? Also in recognizing Hanukkah and Christmas, to also further recognize it is also Kwanzaa season at the same time. So just a reminder that these are the little things, and that's not, please don't hear that as a slap on the hand at all. It's just the work of equity is very hard, and those seemingly little things that we miss. So again, I want to close with saying I'm just so proud of the work that you all have done. I have used this with 2 other organizations as an example of how the work can advance. And so thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Effiam. Is there anybody else who is wanting to speak at citizen comment? Okay, I think normally we, I don't know, I'm confused. We don't adjourn and then go into executive session. We go into executive session first, come back and adjourn.
Right. I'll make a
Okay.
motion. We go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the holiday stipends.
I'll second it.
Okay, great. And then I guess we can roll call going into executive session, but Natalie, will you remind us when we come back out, are you going to be here? Is Julie going to be here? How do we do that?
You need to text or call me so I can start this meeting again.
Okay. And then in terms of a link for the other, we have a separate link for executive session. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was in the email.
Okay. So yes, we are going to roll call that move to executive session and then go there.
Okay. Ron? Ron? You're muted. Debbie Braun? Whoops. Debbie Braun, are you there?
I said yes, no?
Okay. Thank you. Now
Yeah, sorry. Okay.
Coyne,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
McCourt,
Yes.
and Mitchell.
Yes.
Okay, I'll see everybody over there at that other link.
If you have any trouble, let me know.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi, Natalie.
Hey. All right. So back at 9:15. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion, McCourt, to give a holiday stipend and the taxes to Brian Rosinski, Natalie Sully, Ruben Sierra, Marcos Cruz in the amount of $400 and $200 to Jessica Larson to Julie, and then to Abigail $100.
This is Coyne. I second.
All right. Roll call. Coin,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
McCourt,
Yes.
Mitchell.
Yes.
Okay. Coin, Gaines.
This is Coin. I move that we close our meeting.
Second, Mitchell.
Okay. Roll call. Coin,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
McCourt,
Yes.
Mitchell.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for our holiday stipends.
Happy
Good night,
holidays.
everybody.
Holidays.
Happy
Yeah,
holidays.
Great. Happy holidays to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.